Welcome back to the Fame Files, presented by DRM News. Buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving deep into a story that's got more twists and turns than a Hollywood blockbuster. We're talking Karla Sofía Gascón and her film Emilia Pérez.
Oh, yeah, this one's a doozy.
It's making history A&D headlines, but not always for the right reasons.
Yeah, you've got this incredible achievement happening. Gascon's nominated for a Best Actress Oscar.
Which would be a first, right?
Absolutely. If she wins, she'd be the first openly transgender woman to win in a lead actress category.
Huge. Talk about breaking barriers.
But at the same time, these old social media posts of hers have resurfaced.
And they're causing a lot of controversy.
Yeah, it's like a PR nightmare unfolding right in the middle of Oscar season.
And a lot to unpack. So before we get into the controversy, for those who haven't seen Emilia Pérez, what's the film about?
Okay, so picture this. A Mexican cartel kingpin, Juan Manitas Del Monte, decides he wants to start a new life as a woman.
Wait, when?
Yep. He fakes his death and undergoes a transition to become Amelia Perez.
So cartel boss becomes a woman. That's quite a transformation.
It is. And Zoe Saldana plays his lawyer, Rita, who helps him pull off this whole crazy scheme.
Okay, so there's definitely drama, intrigue, and I'm guessing a whole lot of action.
You got it. It's a wild ride.
But it's also a musical, right?
Oh, yeah, which adds another layer of complexity to the whole thing.
Wow. Cartel boss, transition, musical. That's a lot to take in. But I must be doing something, right? It's got 13 Oscar nominations.
That's right. And not just the Oscars. It won Best Actress at Cannes for Gascon.
Impressive.
And 4 Golden Globes, too, including Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy.
So clearly, it's resonating with a lot of people.
Yeah.
But you mentioned criticism earlier.
Yeah.
What are some of the things people are saying?
Well, some critics argue that the film's portrayal of the trans community is problematic.
How so?
They say it relies on outdated tropes and doesn't really represent the community authentically.
I see. So there are concerns about representation and sensitivity.
Exactly. And there's also the fact that the director, Jacques Audiard, is French.
And doesn't speak Spanish.
Right. Which some people find odd considering the film is set in Mexico and revolves around Mexican characters.
It's interesting because neither Gascón nor Saldana, who are nominated for playing Mexican characters, are actually Mexican themselves.
That's another point of contention for some.
So the film is definitely sparking some important conversations about representation and authenticity.
It is. And even the musical score has gotten mixed reviews.
Yeah. I mean, musicals can be hit or miss.
Right. Some find it jarring or even mocking in this context.
So it's a bit of a mixed bag then. Critical acclaim on one hand and valid concerns about representation on the other. But let's get into the real controversy here. What did these social media posts from Gascon's past actually say?
So back in January, screenshots of posts from Gascon's X account, which was written in Spanish, started circulating online.
X, formerly known as Twitter, for those who haven't caught up.
And these posts were reportedly from 2020 and 2021.
Okay, so not that long ago.
Nope. And they contained comments that many people found offensive topics ranging from Muslims and George Floyd to even her Amelia Perez co-star Selena Gomez.
Whoa, Selena Gomez.
Yeah.
Now that's unexpected.
It was a strange mix of targets, for sure, and the content was pretty inflammatory.
Yeah, I can see why that would cause a problem. Especially with the Oscars right around the corner. How did Gascón respond when these posts resurfaced?
Initially, she issued an apology through Netflix expressing remorse for any hurt caused.
So taking ownership, at least to some degree.
Yeah, but she also clarified that she wasn't the author of all the posts.
Wait, so some of those posts weren't actually hers?
That's what she claims. She specifically denied the one about Selena Gomez.
So there's some ambiguity about who wrote what.
Exactly. And since then, she's deactivated her X account, citing harassment and death threats.
It's never okay to send death threats or harass anyone online.
Absolutely. And she's talked about feeling unfairly judged and attacked, saying she's being crucified for things she may or may not have even said.
Yeah, sounds like she's feeling the immense pressure of this whole situation.
It's a lot to handle for anyone, especially on top of what's probably an already intense Oscar campaign.
Absolutely. So what has the fallout from this controversy look like for the Amelia Perez team?
Well, Gascón has been removed from the film's U.S. Oscar campaign.
Wow, so no more red carpets or interviews for her.
It seems so. She won't be attending any of the major awards events either.
That's a big decision.
Yeah.
And what about the director, Jacques Audiard? How has he reacted to all of this?
He's expressed his disappointment quite openly.
I can imagine.
He said he's cut ties with Gascón, describing her actions as self-destructive.
Wow, so there's definitely some tension there.
Yeah, and Zoe Saldana, on the other hand, has been more reserved.
What has she said?
She simply stated that she's sad and disappointed about the situation.
So a very divided response. Everyone processing this in their own way.
It seems like this controversy has created some real rifts within the team.
It's a tough situation all around. And it raises so many questions.
Like, how much do an artist's personal views and past actions affect our perception of their work?
Right. Can you separate the art from the artist? Or are there certain lines that can't be crossed?
Those are the big questions we're grappling with here.
And that's what we're here to explore. We're diving deep into this complex story, and in the next part, we'll unpack those very questions.
Looking at how this controversy fits into the larger conversation about cancel culture and representation in the film industry.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back. This whole Gascón situation is such a mess. It really makes you think, like, how messy can things get when your personal life clashes with your public image, especially in this day and age of social media?
It's like a total minefield out there.
Right. You say one wrong thing years ago and boom, it's back to haunt you.
It definitely brings up this whole debate about cancel culture. Like, are we holding people accountable, or are we just shutting down any chance for growth and change?
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, you want to call out harmful behavior and make sure people are responsible for their words and actions. You know what they say? Words have power.
For sure.
But then there's this other side where you wonder if it's even fair to judge someone based on something they might have said years ago.
Yeah, especially if they've shown they've learned and grown since then.
People can change, right?
Absolutely. And social media just makes everything so much more complicated.
It's like this digital time capsule.
Right. Everything you've ever said online is just sitting there waiting to be dug up.
It's almost like everyone has this digital shadow following them.
It can be pretty scary. I mean, something you said as a teenager, something stupid or insensitive, can come back to bite you years later.
Even if you're a completely different person now.
Exactly. And the worst part is context gets lost, nuances disappear.
People judge you based on a snapshot of who you were, not who you are today.
That's the danger of it all.
It makes you wonder, is there even room for forgiveness in this digital age?
Yeah, is redemption even possible?
Can we really learn and grow from our mistakes? Or are we just forever defined by them?
These are tough questions.
No easy answers for sure.
But I think we have to at least try to acknowledge that people can change.
That they can learn, evolve.
Right. We can't just dismiss someone's whole life, their entire work, based on past actions.
Especially when it comes to representation.
Oh, that's such a crucial point.
Like, if we're so quick to cancel people, we risk silencing these important voices.
Especially voices from marginalized communities.
Right. Those voices need to be heard even more.
Because representation matters. It really does.
It's this delicate balance, you know.
It is.
You want to hold people accountable.
But you also want to encourage growth.
And create this culture of understanding and forgiveness.
It's about finding that middle ground.
Having those tough conversations.
Being willing to listen, to learn from each other.
And this Gascón situation, it's like a prime example of how messy these conversations can get.
It really is.
Because it's not just black and white.
Right. It's not as simple as she said something offensive, so she's canceled.
There's a whole history. So many factors to consider.
Absolutely. And on top of all that, you have this other layer of complexity.
The impact on the film itself.
Emilia Pérez is this groundbreaking work, a potential history-making film.
But now it's all overshadowed by this controversy.
So should we separate the art from the artist in this situation?
Yeah, is that even possible?
I don't know. It's like two separate conversations happening at the same time.
One about Gascón's actions and the consequences.
And another about the film and its achievements and what this controversy means for its future.
It's tricky, for sure.
Can you appreciate the art while also acknowledging the harm? Can you celebrate the work but hold the individual accountable?
Those are questions that each viewer has to grapple with on their own, I think.
I agree.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
It's about personal reflection, critical thinking.
Being open to different perspectives.
It's bigger than just Gascón and Emilia Pérez.
Right.
It's this much larger conversation about how we navigate complex situations in a world where information spreads like wildfire and opinions are so polarized.
You're right. It shines a light on these broader questions about accountability, forgiveness, and the power and pitfalls of social media.
It challenges us to think critically about our own values and how we approach these tough conversations.
It's a reminder that we're all human, capable of making mistakes.
And capable of learning from them.
It encourages us to engage in dialogue instead of jumping to conclusions.
Exactly. To be more understanding, more empathetic.
And ultimately, I think it prompts us to consider how we want to contribute to a more just and equitable world.
Both online and offline.
Well said. So as we move towards the final part of our deep dive, I think it's time to shift gears a bit
Okay.
and think about the ripple effects of this controversy.
All right.
What does this mean for the film industry, especially for transgender representation? What lessons can we learn, and where do we go from here?
This whole Gascon situation, it's been a roller coaster, hasn't it? We've gone from celebrating this groundbreaking nomination to dissecting a controversy that's shaken up Hollywood. Yeah, it's been intense, for sure. And I think this whole thing, it really highlights how social media has changed the game.
Absolutely. One wrong tweet, one problematic post from years ago, and it can all come crashing down.
It's like everyone's walking on eggshells, constantly worried about being canceled.
And for Gascon, this controversy, it's really put a damper on what should be a celebratory moment.
Yeah, it's overshadowed this historic achievement, her nomination being a first for a trans woman in a lead actress category.
It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back for representation.
It makes you wonder, what does this all mean for the film industry, especially for transgender actors and filmmakers who are already fighting for visibility and recognition?
Will this make studios more hesitant to cast trans actors, fearing that kind of backlash?
It's possible, right? They might think, oh, it's too risky, too much potential for controversy.
And that would be a huge setback.
It would, because we need more representation, not less.
But at the same time, we can't just sweep these issues under the rug.
No, absolutely not.
We have to acknowledge the harm that Gascon's words may have caused.
Right, and hold her accountable for that.
So it's this constant push and pull, this balancing act between progress and accountability.
And I don't think there's an easy answer.
No, it's messy, it's complicated.
But it's a conversation we need to have.
And this Gascon situation, it's like a microcosm of that larger conversation.
Not cancel culture about how we deal with past mistakes in this digital age.
You know, it reminds me of that saying, sunlight is the best disinfectant.
I like that.
It might be messy and uncomfortable, but by bringing these issues to light, by having these tough conversations,
we're forced to confront our biases, challenge our assumptions.
and hopefully grow as a society.
I agree. And maybe, just maybe, all this messiness will lead to something positive.
A more nuanced understanding of these issues, more empathy, more compassion.
It's a long shot, but I think it's worth striving for.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the big question is, where do we go from here?
What lessons can we learn from all of this? From Amelia Perez, from Karla Sofía Gascón, from this whole whirlwind of controversy?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway for me is the reminder that everyone makes mistakes. We're all human. We all have our flaws.
Absolutely. And that doesn't mean we can't grow or change or learn from those mistakes.
It's about acknowledging the harm, taking responsibility.
And striving to do better.
It's also about having those tough conversations, even when they're uncomfortable.
Right, because that's where real change happens.
And it's about being open to different perspectives, recognizing that there are always multiple sides to every story.
And I think at the end of the day, it's about remembering to be kind.
To each other, to ourselves.
Because we're all in this together, navigating this crazy, complex world.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. Keep asking those tough questions, keep those conversations going, and as always, join us next time for another deep dive into the Fame Files.